Oh my God. I just had the craziest experience in the third floor women's bathroom. Okay, I was coming down from a C-suite meeting on the elevator, and all of a sudden, a bunch of people got off, and I assumed it was the first floor because I was on my phone and I wasn't really paying attention. So I followed everyone out, and suddenly I realized I am not in the lobby, but I am on the third floor. I don't think I realized I was on the third floor at the time, but I realized I was not on the lobby. I never go to those lower floors, but I think maybe marketing or maybe HR is down there. I don't know. So instead of getting back on the elevator, I decide to go to the bathroom before I go to lunch. So I go in, I do my thing, and all of a sudden I hear these two women come in, and they don't know I'm there, obviously, because they do not quiet their voices or whisper or anything. And it just got so intense. They were talking all about like being a woman in corporate America. First, I'll back up. Okay, first one woman comes in and she is sobbing. She is crying so hard. And I'm thinking, oh God, how am I going to get out of here, right? And then this other woman, an older woman, comes in and she's like, oh my God, what happened? Did you not get the promotion? You were in there for a really long time and we were all like waiting for you to come out. Meanwhile, this young woman is crying. Now I'm like peering through the cracks of the bathroom stall. So there are these two white women. Maybe I've seen them. I don't know. I don't really recognize them. And she's like, no, I got the promotion. And the older woman's like, well, why are you crying? And she's like, because I can't take it anymore. I feel like a fraud. I feel like a failure. She's like, failure? You just got promoted and I'm assuming you got a raise. And she's like, yeah, I got a raise. And she's like, I keep getting raises. I keep getting promoted. And it doesn't matter. I can't stop feeling like a total fraud. And then at that point, the older woman's like, oh, you just have imposter syndrome. And she's like, yeah, I know I have imposter syndrome. I mean, obviously I have imposter syndrome. She's like, no, it's a thing. It's a thing. We all have it. She's like, oh, it's called being a woman. She's like, here's what you need to do. Here's what you need to do. You need to get this book. It's called The Middle Finger Project. It's called Trash Your Imposter Syndrome and Live the Unfuckable Life You Deserve. And she's like, I have that book. She's like, okay, well, have you done the workbook? There's this exercise where you draw your imposter voice as this creature or this monster so that you can cross-examine all this negative self-talk. She's like, I've done that. She's like, what about the mason jar where you put affirmations? She's like, I have the fucking mason jar. Okay, so this goes on and on and on. And she's basically like, girl, you got to play the game, girl. You got to suck it up. This is how you get ahead. And she's like sobbing, I put this mask on to do this job and I'm not even acting like myself. It's like I'm conforming to this idea of who I'm supposed to be. And the more I do it, the more fucked up I am because I have to keep it up. I have to keep up this facade. I mean, I'm like, oh my God, what is happening in the third floor bathroom, right? She's like, they're going to find out. And it's like, I feel like I'm constantly going to be busted. And by the fraud police, they're going to figure out that I don't actually know what the hell I'm doing. And then all of a sudden, this other woman walks in. And it's this woman whose voice I immediately recognize. I think her name is Stephanie. I don't know. She's the CFO secretary. And she's got this awesome voice. She's no BS. She's I've always liked her anyway. And she comes in, she's like, why the tears, ladies? And I'm like, fuck, this is just getting worse. She's like, what were you watching, some white woman show at lunch? Some Steel Magnolias nonsense? And then they get to talking about this whole imposter syndrome thing. And then the older woman goes, you must have felt this way as a black woman. And I'm like, oh my God. I could hear a pin drop. And I don't know what happened. No one said anything for 10 seconds. And I was trying so hard not to breathe. And I was holding my breath. I was like, I'm going to pass out in here. And she's like, you must have felt this way as a black woman, like an imposter. And this woman takes a minute and she's like, I don't have a crisis of self-doubt. You know why? Because I know that connections and privilege are what get people here. She says to the young one, she's like, doesn't your dad work here? Isn't he in senior management? And I'm like, oh my God, that's who that is. And she's like, there's nothing wrong with me. She's like, why would I think something's wrong with me? I am enveloped in a system that is failing to support me. She's like, I don't have imposter syndrome. This environment is hostile. No wonder you feel like something's wrong. And I'm like, oh my God. And then she's like, this whole imposter thing, they are making us think that we're the problem. She's like, fuck that. They're the problem. This environment is the problem. And I'm like, oh my God, is she talking to me? She's like, fuck that. They're the problem. And then she's like, I don't let them tell me I'm the problem. I tell them, stop telling me I should fix myself at work when the thing that needs fixing is the place I work. And then she's like, you white women, stop buying into this whole imposter syndrome crap. It's not a syndrome. It's not a syndrome. It's an internal experience you're having that makes sense in a lot of ways, but at least this corporate world, she's like, at least this corporate world is a realm that you can see your reflection in to some degree. I mean, but this whole, I've got imposter syndrome rant, it sounds almost like you're proud of it. Just like this communal, sorry to say, she was like, but self-deprecation. It's like, oh, And she goes, see it for what it is. You're smart. You're prepared. You do the work. So what, you have bad days or feel insecure sometimes, don't let them tell you there's something wrong with you. And I was like,